States Air Force retired. Lieutenant Colonel Hernandez has served as a Security Forces Officer, a Combat Camera Officer, Chief of the United States Air Force Command Center, a Political Affairs Strategist, and as Deputy Director for Intelligence and Cyber Operations. His previous deployments include Tirana, Albania, Sarajevo, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia, and Kabul, Afghanistan. He also served as Commander and Professor of Aerospace Studies, Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps, Air Force ROTC Detachment 730 at the University of Pittsburgh. He was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters. Lieutenant Colonel Hernandez is currently the Veterans Benefits Coordinator at the University of Pittsburgh. Attending prior POW MIA vigils, Lieutenant Colonel Hernandez has offered his support and concern and has formed a friendship with Vietnam Veterans Incorporated. We thank him for his service and welcome him here tonight.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you as always. I want to start off with a story from back in around 2007 or so. At the time, I was stationed at Hickam Air Force Base in Hawaii. And at the time, USARPAC, the U.S. Army of the Pacific, USARPAC was holding joint exercises with the Indian military. They did it every year. And that year, they were hosting the exercises in Hawaii. So there was a contingent of Indian officers who arrived to support the exercise, and my job was to support them, to escort them, to help them. And at one point, we were on the south end of base, and I pointed out to them a few buildings that were owned, operated by JPAC, the Joint POW MIA Accountability Command. And I mentioned to the Indian officers that JPAC's job was to investigate MIAs so that they could ultimately repatriate, and that we as a nation and as a family could formally inter the remains of our sons and daughters across the globe, even years, decades after the wars themselves had ended. And now I should add here that subsequently, years later, JPAC would be closed deactivated due to poor leadership, and that the mission would be later carried on, and in fact it's still carried on, by the Defense POW Missing Personnel Office. But anyway, at that time, the Indian officers, they were stunned. I mean, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that the United States would send, that any country would spend so much time, resources, and people to track down their MIAs. And after a quiet moment, one of the Indian colonels turned to me and he said, "I believe that is an important reason why America has the world's most powerful military. Because your soldiers know, no matter where they go, the country will always work to bring them back home." And that is why we're here tonight. And that is exactly why our nation holds a National POW MIA recognition every September. We do this so that American society will not ever forget to hold up our end of our commitment to our men and women in uniform. And I'm talking about our society that includes those men and women who have never gone to war. Those men and women who have never gone to war, but their loved ones have. And maybe those loved ones have come back, or maybe they haven't come back. And that part of society also includes our veterans who have gone to war, have returned, and have gained a deeper wisdom because of it, but only after years of private pain. And we do this for our society's next generation of patriots, and I'm talking about all the young men and women in uniform with us right now, so that these patriots will remember our nation's commitment to them, even in the years ahead, as they leave their homes and leave their families to go to darker, more dangerous places across the globe, and to do so on our behalf. But there's one part of our society I haven't mentioned yet, and that is those younger veterans who have returned from our recent wars and recent combat operations. Those veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya and Syria and Central Africa and Eastern Europe and South Asia and everywhere else across the globe for the last 15 years straight. They, just like all of America's warriors before them, going all the way back to the Minutemen, they have had to contend with their own moments of deep, deep personal fear. And some have had to frequently witness trauma. And some have had to witness the injury or death of a comrade or a friend or an innocent. And others still have had to kill and have subsequently been pushed into an environment so dark as to turn one's moral understanding of the world on its head. They have had to witness firsthand that humanity is indeed a very, very thin veneer. They have witnessed forces so dark as to never leave their dreams. And now that those veterans have returned, they try to somehow contend with these burdens alone. And to steal a phrase from Dr. Roger Brooke, the military psychologist at Duquesne University, these veterans now hurl themselves back into civilian life as if they can become mere civilians again. In time, they will learn that they too have a larger role to play in our society, more than just assimilation. They will learn that they have a leadership role to play in our society. They will learn that they have an educational role to play in our society, and indeed, they have a spiritual role to play, helping the rest of us deal with the trauma and the pain and the loss and the randomness and the deep, deep contradictions that life brings to all the rest of us. Let me suggest that the Vietnam veterans and their families already know this. They play that leadership role. They're the ones who are volunteering. They are the ones that are first to help. They are the ones that sustain this vigil for the important spiritual role that it plays in our community, to remember those who are gone, to remember those who have not come back, and to try to reach out to those who have come back but have a lot of night terrors in front of them. There is no greater love than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friends. The veterans here tonight, they know it. They've seen it. And in the end, maybe that's the kind of love that we're all looking for. So let's dream big thoughts with bigger love in our hearts. And let's do it for those who are no longer with us. Because we remember they showed no greater love for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Hernandez.